I'm Trinidadi, and let's queer up education. Report exposes how anti-LGBT group funded research at McMaster University. An investigative report from the Needle News is exposing serious bioethics concerns inside one of Canada's top research institutions. For years, the Society for Evidence-Based Gender Medicine financed systematic medical reviews at McMaster University. That organization has been designated an anti-LGBTQ hate group and pseudoscience network by Southern Poverty Law Center. Critics and internal whistleblowers say the funding deal allowed the group to influence research methods. The resulting studies cast doubt on gender-affirming care for transgender youth. Politicians and courts then cited those exact McMaster studies to justify banning puberty blockers and hormone therapy across multiple jurisdictions. Following intense pressure from students, faculty, and academic librarians, 5 lead McMaster researchers publicly condemned the misuse of their research, formally cut all ties with the group, and pledged to direct future funding toward transgender legal defense organizations. I think this is it's a tricky subject for me. I am not doubting that these findings were misused, as the researchers have said that their findings were misused, but it doesn't mean that there isn't any grains of truth into it. So my position on this is I remember following Jazz, her whole story about what she went through, and Jazz Jennings. And she talks publicly a lot about some of the things that were really difficult and struggles going on these puberty blockers before, she was ready to go on them, and then how that influenced later on her transition, because she wanted to transition. And then there was a lot of issues because she didn't go through the transition that, you don't have extra skin in certain areas, and you don't have certain development in areas, and that makes transition much more difficult. There's also the sterility possibility. There's also the lack of libido. I follow a few conservative trans women, and they've talked about the other side of things, that they said, I wish we would have known this. I wish this was a thing. I firmly believe that any kind of medical decision should not be coming from the government. It should be between the child, the doctor, and the parent, and they should be in agreement, all 3 of them, in what treatment lies ahead. But it is a very slippery slope for me to use any kind of puberty blockers or anything that's more permanent that could damage the development of them as they grow. And I understand there might be some situations where that is the absolute last resort, and that's what needs to be done. And I'm saying that should be an option. Yeah. But I'm definitely in general against those situations.
More data needs to be had.
Yeah.
More studying needs to be had, right? Again, I don't think any of us are parents at this table, right? But I have spoken to parents of trans kids where they have said that their kid has threatened to cut their thing off. Okay? When you have a kid in front of you telling you that they are about to hurt themselves because they're not in the right body, sometimes some decisions have to be made that are not easy to be made, but completely, I'm in agreement with you that this would have to be everybody on the same page. It can't be the government telling you what to do with your child.
I want to get to sort of the root of this particular story, and it's symbolic of a bigger problem. Is that, and I say this coming from a journalist perspective, someone publishes a study, and it has to be, for me, it has to be from a reputable place, Johns Hopkins or CNN reporting. But I don't have, and very few people have the resources, the time and the wherewithal to go, okay, this poll, this research, where does it come from? What is the methodology using it? I just kind of have to take it at face value. And sometimes bad actors get through and their message gets through. We're talking about how we wanted this one business to come in and lift up all of our drag venues. And we were all like, okay, I didn't have a chance before to go in and say, oh, this person drove other businesses into the ground. It's hard. So I guess my point is, take everything with a grain of salt. If you have a chance, just Google a couple of things. Google, where does this come from? But it's hard to find funding. I don't know how to start looking for who's funding a particular study at a particular department at a Canadian university. It's not impossible, but logistically it's incredibly difficult, especially with the deluge of information we get on the daily.
And I think what you're
Yeah.
saying is that you should make sure that you don't use this as your only source. That there's several studies that have been done, and you should look at a cross section of studies and not just one.
Absolutely.
Of course, but that's
Yeah.
why we have to ask who is funding the research,
Do the research.
right?
Yeah,
Because
do
again,
it.
do the research on who's doing the
Yeah,
research.
right,
Because
exactly.
at the end
Yeah.
of the day, whatever data they come up with can be used to weaponize.
Right.
And it has been
And
in
it
this
will be,
particular case.
and it has been and it will be forevermore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry. Okay, there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.